Commander Jake Morrison walked into the big room where aliens from 12 different planets sat in a circle. The room was huge and made him feel very small. He had never seen so many different types of aliens in one place before. The crystal-like aliens called Zilithians were making strange flashing lights. Jake's computer told him this was how they laughed. The big lizard aliens called Korvax were making hissing sounds and showing their sharp teeth. In the middle of the room, a ghost-like alien floated in the air. Its body was see-through and glowed with a soft light. "You want to help us fight the Devourers with this?" The floating alien's voice came into Jake's head without using his ears. The alien was looking at a picture that showed floating in the air. The picture showed Earth's new weapon. Dr. Lisa Parker stepped up next to Jake. She was Earth's best scientist who made weapons. Her hands were shaking a little, but her voice was strong. The resonance amplification network looks simple, but it can break up the way Devourers talk to each other across whole star systems. All the aliens in the room started making noise. It was their way of laughing, but it was not nice laughing. The bug-like aliens called Threx clicked their big jaws together. The gas aliens called Nebulans spun around in circles. Even the robot aliens called Syntharks made beeping sounds. "Humans," said the big lizard alien who seemed to be the leader. His voice was deep and scary. "Your people have only been in space for 200 years. We have been fighting the Devourers for 10,000 years. You don't know enough about space science or mind powers to help us." Admiral Sam Rodriguez was there to speak for all humans in space fights. He stayed calm even though the aliens were being mean. "We still want to try our weapon in the outer rim where the fighting happens. If we fail, you lose nothing. If we win." "If you win," the floating alien cut him off, "which cannot happen, we will say sorry to all humans in front of everyone. But when you fail, and you will fail, humans must do what we tell them and stop trying to make weapons." The aliens voted. Very fast, 11 groups said yes to let humans try their weapon. They thought it would be fun to watch humans fail. Only one group, called the Ascended, did not vote. Their person stayed quiet the whole time. When the meeting ended, Jake heard two crystal aliens talking. His computer changed their words to English. They called humans funny pets and said, "At least they die with courage." Jake understood what was happening. The aliens wanted humans to fail in front of everyone. After the meeting, Jake walked with Lisa and Sam through the long halls of the space station. The walls were made of metal that looked like mirrors. Aliens of all types walked past them, but none stopped to talk. "They think we're stupid," Lisa said quietly. "Maybe we are," Sam replied. "Our weapon is so simple compared to theirs. They have guns that can destroy whole planets. They have machines that can bend space and time, and we have ... sound waves." Jake stopped walking. "Sometimes simple things work better than big complicated things. My grandfather used to say that." They reached their small ship that would take them back to Earth. It looked tiny next to the huge alien ships docked nearby. Some alien ships were as big as cities. Others looked like they were made of pure energy got inside their ship. The 3 humans sat around a small table. Lisa pulled out her computer and showed them pictures of their weapon again. "Look," she said, "every alien species here uses the same kind of thinking. They try to hit harder, move faster, or use more energy. But the Devourers are strong because they all think together as one big mind. What if we don't try to hit them harder? What if we just make it so they can't think together?" Sam looked at the pictures. The weapon looked like a bunch of small boxes, connected by invisible lines. "It's like jamming a radio signal?" "Sort of," Lisa said. "But instead of stopping the signal, we make it confused. Like trying to listen to music when someone keeps changing the station." Jake thought about this. The aliens laughed because our weapon doesn't shoot anything or blow anything up. Right, Lisa said. They can't imagine a weapon that doesn't destroy things. But sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make the other guy confused. Their ship started moving away from the alien station. Through the window, Jake could see the huge alien warships getting ready to follow them. Every major alien group was sending ships to watch humans fail. 3 weeks, Sam said. In 3 weeks, we'll either prove that humans belong in this war, or we'll be laughed at by the whole galaxy. Lisa closed her computer. The math is right. The weapon should work. But math on paper and real fighting are different things. Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were waiting. They had been the galaxy's biggest fear for thousands of years. No one had ever beaten them in a fair fight. They moved like one big creature with millions of parts. They thought with one big brain that stretched across space. What if we're wrong? Jake asked. Then we die trying, Sam said. But if we're right, everything changes. The ship flew through space toward the battle zone. Behind them, alien ships followed like hunters watching prey. In front of them, the Devourers waited in the dark between stars. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but he kept thinking about the crystal aliens' words. Funny pets. That's what they thought humans were. Pets who were about to be put down. But pets sometimes surprised their owners. Sometimes the smallest dog could scare away the biggest wolf. Sometimes simple ideas worked when complicated ones failed. In 3 weeks, the galaxy would learn what humans could really do. 3 weeks later, the human spaceship Hughes Manhattan flew toward the Kepler 442 star system. Captain Ben Walker stood on the bridge, watching his crew get ready for what everyone expected to be their last fight. The bridge was small compared to alien ships. Everything was made by humans for humans. The chairs were the right size, the lights were the right color, and the air smelled like home. Ben knew this might be the last time he would smell Earth air. How is our weapon? Ben asked. His chief engineer, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster, looked up from her computer screen. She had been working for hours without rest. All parts are working, Captain. The quantum network is stable. All 47 boxes are connected and ready. Dr. Parker's math checks out perfectly. Ben nodded, but he still felt worried. Their weapon seemed too simple compared to what the aliens used. Other species had energy guns that could cut planets in half. They had reality-bending machines that could make space fold like paper. Humans had a bunch of small boxes that made sound waves. Sir, said Communications Officer Danny Brooks, the alien ships are calling us. The lizard people's battle group is staying at the edge of the star system. The crystal people and ghost people are with them. Of course, they were there. Every major alien species had sent ships to watch humans die. Ben could imagine them making bets on how fast the Devourer ships would eat the human ship. Enemy contact, announced sensor specialist Karen Lee. 300 ships coming from the asteroid belt. They're flying in perfect formation. Full mind link is active. Ben felt his stomach drop. 300 ships. The biggest Devourer fleet anyone had ever seen before was 50 ships. Either they were walking into a trap, or the aliens had sent humans to fight an impossible battle on purpose. All stations, get ready for battle, Ben commanded. Amy, prepare to turn on our weapon when I say so. The main screen showed the enemy fleet coming toward them. Devourer ships looked like they were alive. They were smooth and curved like sea creatures. They seemed to pulse with evil life. Their perfect coordination was famous across the galaxy. No Devourer ship had ever been seen acting alone. They moved as one creature, thought with one mind, attacked as one weapon. They're going faster, Karen reported. They'll reach us in 4 minutes. Ben held tight to his command chair. Amy, start phase 1. Low power across all weapon parts. Yes, sir. Beginning sound sequence. Nothing flashy happened. Their weapon made no bright lights or obvious energy blasts. The alien watchers probably saw this as proof that the weapon didn't work, but Ben watched his sensors carefully. The Devourer fleet's coordination patterns showed the first tiny change. Captain, Karen's voice had surprise in it. The Devourer formation is showing small problems. 3 ships have moved away from perfect position by a tiny amount. Ben leaned forward. A tiny amount meant nothing to most people, but for a species that had never shown even microscopic formation errors, it was huge. Increase power to 30%, Ben ordered. Amy's fingers moved fast across her control panel. 30% power achieved. All weapon parts responding perfectly. The effect was small but clear. The Devourer fleet's perfect coordination began to show tiny cracks. Ships that should have moved in perfect unison now showed tiny delays. Their approach path, once perfectly straight, developed a small wobble. Sir, Danny Brooks interrupted, the watching alien fleet is asking why we're taking so long to fight. The Lizard Admiral is getting impatient. Ben almost smiled. Tell them we're running pre-battle checks. Standard human procedure. On the battle display, the Devourer fleet got closer. At this distance, their mind coordination should have been perfect. Instead, Ben saw something no military leader in galaxy history had ever seen. Devourer ships beginning to act with individual differences. Amazing, Amy whispered, studying her readings. The sound waves aren't blocking their mind talk. They're creating interference patterns that make feedback loops in their hive mind network. Like static on a radio? Ben asked. More like forcing a music group to play while each musician hears the music slightly out of time. They can still talk to each other, but the precision is getting worse. The first Devourer weapons started firing. Huge bioenergy bolts that had destroyed alien battle fleets for thousands of years. But instead of perfectly coordinated attack, the shots came in messy groups. Several missed completely, passing harmlessly through space where the Manhattan should have been if the Devourers had calculated its position correctly. Fire back, Ben commanded. All weapons, target their lead ships. Human railguns and plasma. Rockets hit the Devourer formation. The enemy ships, no longer able to coordinate perfect defensive moves, took damage that should have been easily avoided. 2 ships suffered major hull damage. Sir, Karen called out, excitement in her voice. The enemy fleet is breaking formation. Ben stared at the battle display in amazement. For the first time in recorded galaxy history, Devourer ships were acting independently. Some tried to retreat, while others pushed forward aggressively. A few seemed to be firing on their own allies, apparently unable to tell friend from enemy through their disrupted mind network. Increase power to 60%, Ben ordered. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Devourer fleet fell into complete chaos. Ships crashed into each other, weapons fired randomly, and several ships began spinning out of control as if their crews had forgotten how to fly them. The most feared military force in the galaxy had been turned into a scattered collection of confused, isolated ships in just 30 minutes. This is impossible, came a message from the Lizard observation ship. How are primitive humans doing what our greatest weapons could not? Ben opened his communication system to broadcast to all the watching alien ships. Sometimes the simplest solutions work best. We didn't try to overpower the Devourers. We just made them unable to work together. On his sensor screen, Ben watched as more Devourer ships lost control. Some were firing at empty space. Others were trying to run away in different directions. A few had stopped moving completely. Amy, Ben said quietly, how long can we keep this up? The weapon can run for hours, Captain. Maybe days. But I don't think we'll need that long. She was right. Within the next hour, Most of the Devourer fleet had either been destroyed by their own confused fighting or had fled the star system. The ships that remained were drifting helplessly, their crews apparently unable to coordinate even basic ship functions. "Sir," Danny Brooks said, "we're getting messages from all the alien observer ships. They want to know how we did this." Ben looked at his crew. They had done something impossible. They had defeated the galaxy's greatest threat with a weapon so simple that advanced aliens had laughed at it. "Tell them," Ben said, "that sometimes thinking differently is more powerful than thinking harder." The battle was over, but Ben knew that for humanity, everything was just beginning. The news of the Kepler 442 battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. Admiral Sam Rodriguez found himself standing once again in front of the alien assembly, but this time everything felt different. The mean laughter was gone. Instead, there was shocked silence and barely hidden fear. Dr. Lisa Parker stood next to a big display showing exactly what had happened in the battle. "Our resonance array weapon found a basic weakness in mind-linked group systems. By creating precisely timed interference patterns, we made their ability to think as one group break down. The floating ghost alien, its see-through body much dimmer than before, sent its thoughts with obvious reluctance. This weapon, it could be changed to disrupt any mind-reading species." "In theory, yes," Lisa agreed, "though we built it specifically to counter the Devourer's unique brainwave patterns." What she didn't say, what the human team had agreed to keep secret, was that their research had found the mind-reading signatures of every species in the Galactic Defense Council. The weapon could be reset to target any of them within hours. The chamber exploded with heated discussion. The meaning was huge. Humanity, the species that had been mocked and dismissed, had a weapon that could potentially stop the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. "How long?" the lead lizard alien asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Have humans had this technology?" "Admiral." Rodriguez looked at his team. "We've been researching sound-based systems for about 18 months. The breakthrough came when we realized that most galaxy species think in terms of overwhelming force. We looked at the problem differently." The ascended representative, quiet during the previous meeting, finally spoke. Its voice had sounds that suggested great age and wisdom. "The humans show something we had forgotten, that high technology does not always equal effectiveness. Sometimes the most elegant solution is also the simplest." Over the next few weeks, requests came in from across the galaxy. Species that had barely noticed humanity's existence now desperately wanted meetings with Earth's representatives. The bug aliens offered exclusive mining rights to their most valuable worlds. The gas aliens proposed technology exchanges that would advance human civilization by centuries. Even the proud robot aliens requested meetings to discuss mutual cooperation agreements. But it was the private message from the Ascended that truly showed how much had changed. "Your species has fundamentally changed the balance of galactic power," their message read. "Not through conquest or control, but through innovation born of necessity. This is how true evolution happens." Captain Ben Walker, now promoted to Admiral, and given command of humanity's growing fleet, stood in his new office looking out at Earth's orbital shipyards. Construction had begun on 40 new ships, each equipped with advanced sound weapon systems. His aide, Commander Danny Brooks, came over with the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, our spies indicate that several species are trying to develop defenses against our sound technology." Ben nodded. "Expected. What's more concerning is the intelligence suggesting that some species are considering attacks against Earth before. We can deploy more weapons. What do you recommend, sir?" Ben looked out at the busy shipyard, where human engineers worked alongside alien specialists who had volunteered their expertise. "We speed up the timeline, and we make sure the galaxy understands that our weapon isn't just a tool of war, it's a guarantee of peace." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, something else was happening. In the ruins of the Devourer fleet at Kepler 442, salvage teams were making disturbing discoveries. The Devourer ships hadn't just been defeated, they had been fundamentally changed. Lieutenant Karen Lay, now assigned to the investigation team, stood in what used to be the command center of a Devourer vessel. "It's like they forgot how to be Devourers," she reported to Admiral Walker over the communication link. "Explain," Walker said. "The crew members we found alive. They're acting like individuals. They seem confused about their purpose. Some are even trying to communicate with us peacefully. It's like our weapon didn't just disrupt their coordination. It broke their group mind permanently." This news reached the Galactic Defense Council within days. The implications were staggering. The resonance array hadn't just won a battle. It had the potential to completely transform enemy species. The crystal aliens called an emergency session. Their leader, a tall being made of living diamond, flickered with nervous energy. If the human weapon can permanently separate group mind, species, then the threat to our own telepathic civilizations is existential. The ghost alien floated lower than usual, a sign of distress. "We must consider all options, including the possibility that humanity has become too dangerous to coexist with." But the robot alien representative disagreed. "Analysis indicates that humans have shown no aggressive intent toward allied species. Their actions suggest defensive rather than offensive motivation." The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to form an alliance with humanity to gain access to the technology. Others wanted to demand that humans share all their research. A few whispered about preemptive strikes against Earth. In the end, it was the Ascended who provided the solution. Their ancient representative stood and spoke with a voice that seemed to come from the stars themselves. "Fear leads to the very conflicts we seek to avoid," the Ascended said. "Humanity has proven something we thought impossible, that innovation can overcome any perceived technological gap. Rather than fear this development, we should learn from it." The session ended with no definitive action, but everyone understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The old rules no longer applied. Species that had dominated through superior firepower now faced the possibility that a simple idea could render their advantages meaningless. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Parker worked late into the night in her laboratory. She was developing new applications for the resonance technology, but she was also troubled by reports from the battlefield. "We created this to stop the Devourers," she said to her research team. "But what if we've done something worse?" "What?" "If we've created a weapon that can destroy the essence of what makes a species who they are." Her assistant, Dr. Tim Hayes, looked up from his calculations. The Devourers were genocidal. They were trying to eat every other species in the galaxy. Stopping them was the right thing to do. "But at what cost?" Lisa asked. "We've proven that any group-thinking species can be broken apart. That's going to terrify half the galaxy." Outside her laboratory window, she could see construction lights from the orbital shipyards. Humanity was building a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not because they wanted to conquer anyone, but because they now had to protect themselves from species who feared what they had created. The next morning brought news that changed everything again. A message had been received from the far edge of the galaxy, where the biggest Devourer strongholds were located. The message was simple but shocking. "We surrender. Please help us remember who we used to be before we became Devourers." The galaxy held its breath. The greatest threat in known history was asking for help from the species they had tried to destroy. And humanity, the newcomers who had been laughed at just months before, suddenly found themselves in the position of deciding the fate of their former enemies. The laughter had definitely stopped. The surrender message from the Devourer strongholds sent shockwaves through every inhabited world in the galaxy. For 10,000 years, The Devourers had been the ultimate enemy, unstoppable, merciless, and utterly alien. Now they were asking for help. Admiral Ben Walker stood in the war room of the U.S. Constitution, humanity's new flagship. Around the holographic table, his senior staff studied intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The news was almost too strange to believe. Confirmed reports from 17 sectors, Commander Danny Brooks said, reading from his tablet. Devourer fleets are standing down. Some are sending distress signals. Others are just sitting there in space, doing nothing. Dr. Lisa Parker joined the meeting via video link from her Earth laboratory. The psychological impact is spreading faster than we anticipated. It's not just the fleets we directly engaged. The resonance effect seems to be cascading through their entire network. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rachel Stone looked troubled. What does that mean for the individuals affected? Are we talking about permanent brain damage? It's more complex than that, Lisa explained. The Devourers weren't born as a hive mind. Based on our analysis of captured specimens, they were once individual beings who were artificially linked together. Our weapon may have simply reversed that process. Admiral Walker felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. So we didn't destroy them. We freed them? Possibly, Lisa nodded. But freedom after thousands of years of group consciousness, that's going to be traumatic. They're asking for help because they literally don't know how to be individuals. Anymore, the meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Galactic Defense Council. The crystal alien who served as the current rotating chairman appeared on the main screen, his diamond-like form flickering with agitation. Admiral Walker, you must come to the council station immediately. We have received a formal petition from the former Devourer Empire. They are requesting membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance. Walker exchanged glances with his staff. Membership? The species that has been trying to eat everyone for 10 millennia wants to join the defense. Alliance? It appears so. They claim to have full memory of their actions, while under hive mind control, and they wish to make amends. They are offering to share all their technology and strategic knowledge as compensation for their past crimes. 2 days later, Walker found himself in the most surreal diplomatic meeting in galactic history. The council chamber had been expanded to accommodate representatives from what used to be the Devourer Empire. The beings themselves looked exactly like the enemy that had terrorized the galaxy, but their behavior was completely different. The lead Devourer representative, who identified himself as Keeper Zenth, spoke in a halting, uncertain voice. I apologize for the confusion in our speech. We are still learning to use individual pronouns. For thousands of years, there was only we and us and the swarm. The assembled alien diplomats watched in fascination and fear as Zenth continued. We remember everything we did while part of the collective consciousness. The worlds we consumed, the species we eliminated, the suffering we caused. These memories belong to all of us individually now, and the weight of that knowledge is difficult to bear. Admiral Walker leaned forward. What exactly are you asking for? Help, Zenth said simply. We do not know how to be individuals. We do not know how to make decisions alone. We do not even know how to eat food as individuals, rather than feeding the collective. Our ships are drifting because we cannot coordinate fleet movements without the group mind. The ghost alien representative floated higher, a sign of interest. You offer your technology in exchange for integration assistance? We offer everything, another former Devourer said. Our bioship technology, our deep space, navigation systems, our knowledge of the galaxy's unexplored regions. We have nothing left to hide and nothing left to fight for. The debate that followed was unlike anything in diplomatic history. How do you integrate a former enemy that had spent millennia trying to destroy everyone else? How do you trust beings who had been responsible for countless genocides, even if they were no longer capable of such coordination? It was the ascended representative who provided the crucial insight. The question is not whether we can trust them, the ancient being said. The question is whether we can afford not to help them. 10 billion individual former devourers, scattered across the galaxy, traumatized and directionless, could become an even greater threat than the coordinated empire ever was. Dr. Lisa Parker, attending the meeting as Earth's chief scientific advisor, stood to address the assembly. From a psychological perspective, these beings are experiencing something like collective amnesia combined with multiple personality disorder. On a species-wide scale, without proper support and guidance, they could indeed become dangerous, not through malice, but through confusion and desperation. The lizard alien representative hissed softly. And if we refuse to help them, then we may face 10 billion individual revenge seekers instead of one coordinated enemy. Lisa replied, the vote was closer than anyone expected. 7 species voted to accept the former devourers into a probationary status within the alliance. 4 voted against. The ascended abstained, stating that the decision was too important for any single vote to determine Dot in the end. It was Admiral Walker who cast the deciding vote. As the representative of humanity, the species that had created this situation, he had been given special voting privileges for this decision only. Earth votes yes, he said, but with conditions. The integration process will be supervised by a joint human-alien task force. Former devourer technology will be shared gradually as trust is built. And any sign of coordinated aggressive behavior will result in immediate reactivation of the resonance weapon network. The chamber fell silent. Then Keeper Zenth did something that no devourer had ever done in recorded history. He bowed. We accept these conditions gratefully, Zenth said. We know we do not deserve forgiveness, but we hope to earn the chance to prove that we can become something better than what we were. Over the following months, the integration process began. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes dangerous. Former devourer individuals struggled with basic concepts like personal property, individual decision-making, and emotional regulation. Some suffered complete psychological breakdowns. Others became aggressive when overwhelmed by their new individual consciousness. But slowly, progress was made. Human psychologists worked alongside alien specialists to develop treatment programs. Former devourer biotechnology began to be adapted for peaceful purposes. Their living ships became incredibly efficient transport vessels, and their biological computers revolutionized data processing across the galaxy. Most importantly, the former devourers provided detailed intelligence about threats in the unexplored regions of the galaxy. They revealed the existence of other hostile group mind species that the galaxy had never encountered. They shared knowledge of resource-rich worlds that could support the expanding galactic civilization. Admiral Walker stood on the observation deck of the Constitution, watching a mixed fleet of human, alien, and former devourer ships conducting joint training exercises. 6 months ago, such a sight would have been impossible to imagine. Second thoughts? Commander Brooks asked, joining him at the window. Every day, Walker replied. But look at them. They're learning to work together as individuals rather than as parts of a hive mind. Maybe that's what the galaxy needed, not just the defeat of an enemy, but proof that any species can change if given the chance. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. The message was from deep space, from one of the former devourer worlds that had been cut off from the collective consciousness. This is Colony Ship Harmony, formerly Devourer Vessel 7743, came the transmission. We have successfully established the first individual settlement on Kepler 438b. Population: 50,000 former collective members. Status: learning to be free. Thank you for showing us that there was another way to exist. Walker smiled. The galaxy was changing in ways no one could have predicted. And for the first time in thousands of years, the change was bringing hope instead of fear. 1 year after the first battle at Kepler 442, the galaxy looked completely different. The devourer threat that had scared civilizations for thousands of years was gone. In its place was something no one had expected, a growing alliance of former enemies working together. Admiral Ben Walker stood on the bridge of the UES Constitution as it approached the Galactic Defense Council's main station. This time, humanity wasn't asking for permission or begging for acceptance. They were arriving as equals, maybe even as leaders. The change in galactic politics had been fast and dramatic. The lizard people, once the most aggressive military power, had signed a formal alliance with Earth. The crystal aliens had opened their most secret technology files to human researchers. Even the mysterious ghost aliens had begun treating human mind readers as honored guests rather than curiosities. Dr. Lisa Parker, now Earth's chief scientific advisor to the Galactic Council, reviewed her notes as they got closer to the station. Today's meeting would include things that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago: setting up joint human-alien research facilities, putting human strategy into galactic military planning, and most importantly, giving humanity a permanent seat on the Council's Leadership Committee. Her assistant, Lieutenant Tim Hayes, came over with a datapad. The first reports from the Outer Rim colonies are amazing. Remaining Devourer forces are giving up rather than fighting our sound weapons. Several groups have even asked for protection. Lisa nodded, but her mind was on bigger things. The resonance array had worked better than their wildest dreams, but its real impact wasn't military. It was psychological. For the first time in galactic history, the idea of an unbeatable enemy had been destroyed by human cleverness. The docking went smoothly, and the human delegation walked to the council chambers. What they saw was unprecedented. Representatives from all 12 species stood up as they entered, a gesture of respect that had never been given to humanity before. The ascended representative, now serving as the council's rotating chairman, sent its thoughts with clear warmth. The council recognizes Admiral Walker, Dr. Parker, and the delegation from Earth. Today, we begin with a formal acknowledgement of humanity's contributions to galactic security. What followed was a carefully planned ceremony that effectively marked humanity's rise to major power status. The ghost aliens publicly kept their promise to apologize to the human species, though their words suggested relief rather than embarrassment. The lizard aliens gave humanity a ceremonial weapon that symbolized acceptance into their warrior culture. But it was the private meeting afterward that truly showed how much had changed. In a secure room, the Council's inner circle, the leaders of the 5 most powerful species, sat with Admiral Walker and Dr. Parker to discuss the galaxy's future. "Your weapon has created a new way of thinking," the robot alien prime unit said with mechanical precision. "The idea of species-specific technological advantages has become obsolete. Every civilization must now consider their weaknesses as carefully as their strengths." Walker leaned forward. "That was never our goal. We simply wanted to help in the now war effort." "Intent is irrelevant," replied the gas alien's chief representative, its cloudy form shifting thoughtfully. "The result remains. Humanity has proven that innovation can overcome any perceived technological gap. This changes everything." Dr. Parker spoke carefully. "Earth has no desire to control the galaxy. Our goal has always been cooperation and mutual benefit, which is precisely why your species is so dangerous," the ghost alien leader projected with what might have been amusement. "Conquerors, we understand. Innovators who seek equality rather than dominance are far more disruptive to established order." The meeting ended with the signing of the Terran Accords, a comprehensive agreement that formally recognized humanity as a galactic power and established rules for sharing resonance technology with allied species while preventing it from reaching. Potential threats. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Walker found himself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, humanity had been struggling for basic recognition. Now, they were helping to reshape galactic civilization. Commander Brooks came over with the final reports from their diplomatic mission. Sir, the Ascended have invited selected human researchers to study at their most advanced facilities. The robot aliens want to establish joint manufacturing centers for sound-equipped vessels. And the bug aliens are offering to share their deep space exploration data in exchange for resonance communication systems. Walker smiled. A year ago, they were laughing at us. And now they're trying to keep up with us, Brooks replied. Doctor, Parker thinks we might have started a galaxy-wide technological renaissance. Every species is suddenly investing heavily in innovative research rather than just improving existing systems. But the real proof of how much had changed came from an unexpected source. A message arrived from the former Devourer worlds, now calling themselves the Free Collective. Their representative, Keeper Zenth, had learned to speak with individual confidence over the past year. To our human friends, the message began, we wanted to report on our progress. 73 independent colonies have been established on formerly controlled worlds. Our people are learning trades, arts, and individual pursuits that were impossible. Under the group mind, we have discovered that we were originally a species called the Veltar, peaceful explorers who were absorbed by an artificial intelligence thousands of years ago. We are slowly remembering who we used to be. The message continued with details that amazed the human listeners. Former Devourer bioships were being converted into living cities. Their biological technology was being used to heal damaged worlds. Most surprisingly, several former Devourer individuals had shown remarkable artistic abilities, creating beautiful sculptures and music that expressed their joy at being free individuals. But most importantly, Zenth's message concluded, we want to thank humanity for giving us the greatest gift possible, the right to choose our own destiny. We were monsters because we had no choice. Now we can choose to be better. 6 months later, Admiral Walker attended the first Galactic Innovation Summit, held on a neutral space station in the Storie sector. The event would have been impossible before humanity's breakthrough. Species that had been content to use the same technology for millennia were now racing to develop new ideas. The crystal aliens presented a new form of faster-than-light communication based on quantum resonance principles borrowed from human research. The gas aliens had developed living spacecraft that could heal themselves and adapt to different environments. Even the robot aliens were experimenting with organic components that could think creatively rather than just processing data. But the most remarkable presentation came from an unexpected partnership. Dr. Lisa Parker stood on stage alongside Keeper Zenth and a young robot engineer named Unit 47. Together, they unveiled the prototype for something called a Harmony Drive. By combining human resonance technology, former Devourer biotechnology, and robot precision engineering, Lisa explained to the fascinated audience, we've created a propulsion system that doesn't just move ships through space. It harmonizes with the natural frequencies of space-time itself. The demonstration showed a small test ship seeming to dance through an asteroid field, moving in ways that defied conventional physics. The ship didn't fight against the obstacles. It flowed around them like water, finding its way downhill. This is what happens when former enemies become partners, Zenth added, his voice carrying the wonder of someone still amazed by his own individual thoughts. We bring our different strengths together to create something none of us could achieve alone. After the summit, Walker found himself in a quiet observation lounge with Dr. Parker and several other humans who had been part of the original mission. Through the transparent walls, They could see ships from dozens of species working together on joint projects. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if our weapon hadn't worked?" asked Danny Brooks, now a captain commanding his own ship. "Every day," Walker replied. "But I think I'm more amazed by what happened, because it did work. We didn't just defeat an enemy. We freed them. We didn't just save the galaxy. We changed it." Dr. Parker was quiet for a moment, watching a mixed crew of humans, former devourers, and various aliens working together on a new type of space station. You know what the real breakthrough was? It wasn't the technology. It was the idea that there might be a better way to solve problems than just hitting them harder. "The aliens laughed at our simple solution," Captain Amy Foster observed. She now commanded the research vessel that was testing new applications of resonance technology. "They thought sophisticated meant complicated, and now they're all trying to think like humans," Walker said with a grin. "Looking for simple solutions to complex problems instead of complex solutions to simple problems." A year later, the transformation was complete. The Galactic Defense Council had been renamed the Galactic Cooperation Alliance. The permanent war footing that had defined galactic civilization for millennia had been replaced by an emphasis on exploration, innovation, and mutual aid. Humanity's role had evolved too. They were no longer the newcomers begging for acceptance.